Okay, welcome everyone to this monthly Love Movement meeting. Lynn isn't here. We were hoping that Lynn would host, but I'm going to take the hosting seat for now. So as is our tradition, we're going to start with just a very short alignment just to fully land in the space. So good to sit up with spine straight, everything uncrossed, feet flat on the floor. And take 3 long deep breaths in through the nose and blowing out slowly over the bottom lip. 3 of those long deep breaths, which is a way of calming the nervous system. And as you're doing those deep breaths, consciously dropping from mind into heart, coming out of all of the busyness of this morning, everything that you were doing in the run up to this call, coming out of everything that you're due to do this afternoon, so that you can be fully present in the now moment. And from that space in the now moment, consciously visioning an energy line dropping from your heart all the way down your chakras, down through the earth, through the soles of your feet, down to the Earth Star, pulling up the energy from the center of the earth, up through your chakras to the heart, and then repeating the process going up through the crown chakra to the soul star above your head, and bringing down source energy down to the heart chakra, so that you're fully present in the now moment and fully connected in to the Axis Mundi and connecting to that infinite intelligence beyond the false matrix of illusion and distraction and assassination attempts and what Dharma's going to do next, so that we can connect with the bigger picture. And coming back to the now moment, and I see that Lynn is here, so I'm going to hand over to you, Lynn, to host this call as our leader, because this could be, depending on what we all agree, this could be our very last session gathering. So it feels appropriate, Lynn, for you to kind of chair it and lead the discussion.
Okay, I'm not sure I became the leader, to be honest. So it was 3 of us. 3 of us.
Well, I know that we were a triangle, the 369 with the Sri Yantra, the heart of the Sri Yantra. But you were always, when we first applied for the part to become a party at Electoral Commission, you were our leader. So I'm going to defer to you.
We have a hierarchical structure to suit the Electoral Commission, which I think just showed it was just not suited for us. Because we were never supposed to be hierarchical, were we?
Okay, so would you like me to lead the discussion then?
I would. Yes, that would be lovely.
Okay, all right. Cool. Let's do this then. So really, this is the question. Where do we go from here? So I'll set the scene with where I'm at personally, and this is my personal feeling. My personal feeling is that the last 18 months or so, from Freedom Alliance and then co-creating the Love Party, and then that morphed into the Love Movement, and obviously standing for election 3 times now. When that election was kind of over, it's like my head has been held deeply underwater, and I've now come up for breath, and I'm actually very relieved that it's over. And I found it draining on every level, emotionally, physically, financially, and I am feeling like my diary is now empty, and I am really wanting to create and to co-create everything that won't be done through politics on a very practical level. So pouring energy into all of the community projects that I'm involved in, going back to what I'm good at, which is mentoring and creating events and mandalas, and really being in that higher vibration. And to be quite honest, I'm really noticing how much the false matrix is desperately trying to bring our energy down, to pull our attention down into like President Trump and assassination, and was it a sniper, or was it a cell, was it an inside job, or blah blah blah, like conspiracy theories. And it's almost like our energy is just being constantly drained into things which ultimately are not creative. And so that's kind of where I'm at now. That is not at cross purposes with the love movement, of course, because we have a very strong community. But I'm so done with politics. I'm not interested in Keir Starmer or who he appoints in his cabinet. I couldn't give a shit, to be quite honest, because it's none of my business. Nothing that happens in Westminster, so far as I'm concerned, will affect me, and nor will I allow it to affect me. I am a free woman of the land, and I'm going to do my own thing, and I'm going to co-create everything that will not be created through Westminster and politics. That's where I'm at. So rant over, and I'm going to open up to you. So let's come to Julie and Lynn first, and then we'll come around the group to see where you're each at. And I'll zip it.
So my position is that I didn't find it quite as horrendous as Rachel. I got quite a good reception. A lot of people have
That's because you're rich, Lynn.
Spoken positively to me and got in touch, and people are wanting to meet up and meet in the area. The politics thing, I sort of think now that the public has missed their chance in rescuing Westminster. If there was ever a chance, and bringing it down gently. I think now it's about we've got to let them just go and create whatever mayhem they're going to create, and we've got to be outside of it and above it, like you say, building our own communities and making sure that the shit doesn't hit the fan for us, their shit doesn't hit the fan for us. So yeah, I think that election was probably the last election chance to bring things back to some sort of balance where we could constructively dismantle the systems that weren't suiting us. I think that what it showed for me was that the British public was still, there were a large number of people. There's not quite, we haven't got the tipping point that we need yet to completely change that system, and they're going to have to just join us as and when they can, and it's up to us now to have systems in place that they can join with, because they're in no way prepared for survival, really, for basic survival, just being able to feed themselves, get their own water, and create their own energy, create their own communities. But also I think that, just being an example, getting things going socially in your community, making sure people are happy, want to go down to the pub, come and see you at the pub, that sort of, just anything like that, singing, getting people doing things that are high vibrational, whatever their political outlook. If they start feeling high vibrational, they will start seeing what's going on. So perhaps that's our new role. I'm not saying never stand for election again. I just think that's we haven't got any for a while anyway. So our energies need to go elsewhere. The other thing we could do is pattern interrupts at the council level, or the mayor level. Just basically make officialdom very uncomfortable. Make sure we I mean, Council Watch is a classic example, isn't it, where they keep showing up and challenging what the council's doing. That's in Colchester, and they're very effective at it, so much so that they're being limited to how much time they can have, what they can say. So they're finding ways around that all the time, and the more they sort of keep tightening things, the more obvious it becomes what the game is. So we sort of have to let that play out a little bit, I think. So that's where I am. Julie?
Yeah, well, I wasn't a candidate in this general election, but I've been on 4 ballot papers, and I did have some time in April this year as a branch secretary for the Workers' Party of Britain for Nottinghamshire. And so I basically was in that role for 3 meetings, which meant I had to type up the minutes of that meeting, each meeting. And then I stepped back from that for various reasons. Politics actually affects everything in our daily lives, whether we want to be part of that system or not. The air you breathe, the foods that are available, the transport, the vehicle system, etc., etc. So you cannot totally, if you're staying in this country, be away from the politics of this country and affected by it, however independently you set up, okay? I really do believe that we need regularly enough contact, and even these weekly meetings, I'm happy to host every week if we need to. Obviously, occasionally I might be on holiday, but other than that, I'm happy to host. And if Rachel doesn't want to attend very often, then that's fine. I know through the different roles I've taken in life that when I've had support groups that I've been involved with, even if you've only got one person or nobody, like with the stand in the park that I do, some weeks I'm there on my own, but I know that I'm glad that I do that every week. And then other weeks there's other people come, and I even had someone come down from Scotland who was visiting his son locally, and he came to 2 meetings, but one of them he didn't arrive until 5 to 11, and officially it's 10 till 11 o'clock, so I'd nearly gone early because I was on my own, and I'm really glad I stayed till the proper 11 o'clock. And I know that the support that I gave him that week, and then he came the following week, I know that support, and there were more people in the following week, was really good and what he needed at that point in his life. And I know Roger normally is on here. I don't know if he's having trouble connecting today, and I know he said in the Beacons group that he would like us to still continue to meet regularly enough. I do think once a month is also good for an update for all the members of the Love Movement, as we call it. And yes, communities are very important, and so we need to be able to have these meetings to fit in with what we're doing in our own local community. I think it's important to have regular recordings of this. You'd be surprised how many different people are listening to them and watching them. And even if we don't record the whole of the meeting, even if we could just put at least, say, 5-10 minutes out, just as a bit of an update. I know that council level is also very important, and through the direct democracy movement that have regular contact with, they're talking about residents associations and starting up that type of approach with life. And so even if we're updating each other on supporting each other with that type of thing, I think it would be helpful. My local council know me, the local MP knows me, and they know that I will positively assert. And so if people want to come on the meetings and mention things that they could do with support with, and like even today Rachel's helped me with my computer to be able to get my screen so I can see properly, and it only started messing up yesterday. So that's where I am, but I have to respect everybody else. But even if we stop these meetings, if people do want to have weekly-ish meetings, then please reach out to me and we'll sort it out, because I've got a Zoom account as well. So that's me for now. Thank you.
I think you're right, Julie, that it does affect, the politics does affect everybody, which is why we've been trying the pattern interrupting, and we have been successful in that. We've got leaflets into God knows how many households now. From the general, we got leaflets into, let's say 4, 8, 12, 5, 10, 15, 20, over 200, probably over 200,000 households. So, and a lot of people came out of the woodwork about that. So yes, that's important. It's a bit of a damning indictment that politics does affect absolutely everything. It shouldn't be there. It should be pretty invisible to us, because all they should be doing really is doing the admin that we don't want to do, like making sure that the roads get fixed or whatever. It should be just making our lives easier. That it's not is really damning. But Westminster, I think, has had its chance and is not going to be the way that we fix it. So I'm not saying don't meet. I'm not saying don't get involved in local politics. I think that's part of building the community. There's some really good initiatives. So somebody sent me something about community assemblies. So as a new way of, as another way of doing it, there's also the Localism Act, which not very many people know about. Michael Croft has been messaging me about the Localism Act. There's stuff we can do locally, and I think it's going to be important to do that, because I'm looking beyond when we have a national government. I think we could well end up with going back to very community level, and very little or no national government, because it's just becoming, well, it's not irrelevant to us because it's very oppressive at the minute, but it's irrelevant to anything that we want. So it's, it's not, I think we've missed the chance. Well, the electorate has missed the chance to use the national government to get things back to local. I think we've now got to build from the grassroots up. Pattern interrupt where we can. We haven't got a chance for a while. We think, of course, it could all collapse very quickly because Keir Starmer has come in as the most loathed person ever to try and form a government. So, I mean, that there's a lot of people who didn't like Margaret Thatcher, but there were a lot of admirers as well. I think Keir Starmer is pretty universally loathed, even by Labour people. So that could all fall apart pretty quickly. They're in the sort of don't scare the horses phase at the minute, aren't they? So they're not doing very much, which is, well, not doing anything too obvious. So that's buying us a little bit of time. But I think if we meet, and I'd personally like it to go to once a month, and I think it would be nice not to have a Beacons meeting, but to have this forum and just and catch up with what's going on locally and really make some noise locally. Would be my
Thanks, Lynn. Thanks, Julie. So who else would like to come on this? Cliff, do you want to come in, because you're in contact with quite a few independents, so you've got maybe a connection to a bigger picture?
Yeah, it was. I don't want to take too much time because it's almost past, and there's a whole load of other people on there. It's great to see so many new people actually. And so hello. I've not met a lot of you. I agree with a lot of things that have been said, and I think and I disagree with some as well. I was working really hard with independents and was really, I think at the time I said, this is a battle. It's not the war. This is not the be all and end all. It's not, if this fails, then we don't accomplish what we stop. We just go, oh, that didn't work. And I think what I got from it was the fact, and I had these conversations with various people, that it is impossible to work within that system. That system is what it is, and it's a system in itself, and it's corrupt through the core. And we're not just talking about Westminster. We're talking about courts. We're talking about law. We're talking about the police. We're talking about the entire system. The whole thing is corrupt, but right the way through. So it's almost kind of fantasy to think that you're going to bring that down, basically. So my view is, and it kind of echoes what Rachel was saying almost, which is that that's of no consideration for me anymore. I think what has to happen here is there needs to be another system created. There needs to be a completely separate, that fundamentally just goes, get on with it. We're not interested. We're not playing your game. It's cool. Play your game. Play your game with the people that you want to play your game with. Anybody that wants to play your game, You've got it's your choice if you want to play that game. It's not a problem. If you want to be sucked into that and stay there and stay dead and, not see and not shift your vibration, that's you know, my blessings, because but you're going to go over there, and there's nothing actually I can do to really help you move to where I believe you could possibly move. I think everybody's got to make that choice for themselves, and it's difficult enough to stay on that path, even with the knowledge of understanding what's actually occurring. It's difficult to stay positive and stay focused. So I think it's a very personal thing to push forward. So I'd never say that anybody shouldn't do what they want to do. That's completely their choice. But I think there's a new directive now, and I think this has made. I mean, I'm hoping this has shown everybody that fundamentally working within that and kind of trying to change that system is completely and utterly pointless, and therefore the energy needs to go to what we're going to create, and that's the strategy for me. That's where Love Beacons. That's where everybody needs to start coming together and really pulling together in all these different areas and facets to actually start to say, you know, it's not a problem, you do what you're doing, but we're gonna do this over here, and we're gonna start building this over here, and we're gonna just completely ignore you, and we're gonna use all our energies and everything else to create what we know is we can create, and bring many people together to discuss various kind of areas of, whether that be law, whether that be finance, whether that be, you know, whatever that be, to actually start to create another process, in effect, another system, another idea, another concept, where people can come and see that and say, oh, hold on a minute, you know, and it does work, and it starts to separate. Because for me, there was always going to be a great separation. I mean, I'm quite into Dolores Cannon and people like that. And they've always said there's going to be a huge separation, and I think there is going to be a huge separation. I think there's a lot of people who are going to go towards that light, and then there's loads of moths that are going to go over towards that light. And it's unfortunate, but I think that's just the way it is, basically. And I think that now is our time to really focus our energy on what we're going to build, what we're going to do next, how we're going to actually create the world that we know we can live in as entities, as sovereign, as human, as all those things, basically bringing together. So that's what I'm aiming towards, and I'd love to continue these conversations, because I think that actually this meeting could be adapted to being less about politics and whatever, and actually being more about what we're going to do next. What can we start to do and bring together and become really positive and become a guiding light for people to come together and start to build that new world, basically. That's my.
Thanks, Cliff. Okay, who would like to share next? Put your hand up, or yes. Prakash has got his hand up, and also Carrie. So, who would like to go first? Prakash, do you want to go first, and then we'll come to Carrie?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I felt quite ambivalent about. I mean, I've been in and out of the Labour Party for the past 40 years, and every now and again, I got pissed off, and I'd leave, and then I'd get inspired, and I'd join. And I've been yo-yoing for the best part of 40 years. And so I start off with a disillusionment around politics, at least politics in terms of parliamentary politics and the scope to reform the system. And so I started off this journey feeling highly conflicted, with one foot in and one foot out, even in this process. And then about a while ago, I got involved, at least I moved to Stroud because of the Our Free Town initiative that's in Stroud. And very quickly, at the beginning of, once the election was announced, I found myself becoming the election agent for the independent candidate in Stroud. And then within a few days of that, I read the link and saw the 89 pages of guidance for candidates and election agents. And I thought, oh my goodness, this whole thing is rigged in such a way that it makes it so hard for independent candidates to operate within this system. You know, if you're within a party political system, you've got the framework of support, and it seemed to me that it's designed to discourage anyone else from participating that's not in a political party. So for me, this has been a massive learning exercise, not only about how the system works, but about myself as well within that system, and how I feel about it, and how I feel about participating in it. And so it's been, in that sense, quite a rich experience. But now here we are, sort of post-election. You know, my disillusionment with Parliament has grown even more, and I'm looking at Parliament, and there's no one standing up for vaccine injuries. There's no one standing up against the 1984 playbook of endless war, and it seems pointless in a way to even attempt to relate to it, because it is pointless. It's just, all it is just promoting the existing status quo, which is going nowhere. So I suppose where I'm left with this, and I haven't yet made a decision as to whether I'm going to stay in Stroud, but I hope I can move. But what I do find, my immediate response is, I think it's what is it that can be done locally. So, for example, there's a planning application for a 5G mast locally, and I thought, well, that's good. You know, you can actively participate against responding to such things. I'm also aware that farmers are being discouraged from farming, and vast swathes of land are being taken up for solar panels and you know, subsidizing farmers not to farm. So I think there is stuff to be done around local initiatives, and I'm particularly warmed by the Our Free Town initiative, which also focuses on health, well-being, and a variety of things. And there are speakers every 2 weeks that talk about some of these areas. But I also agree with what Lynn said. I actually think that this system is actually very fragile. I mean, it looks as though Starmer's got whatever it is, 411 seats and everything, but the major parties had the lowest turnout of, well, not we had the lowest turnout of votes, but also the major parties got the lowest number of votes, I think, recorded for some time. So I think the system is in a state of decline, and I think it could easily pivot, and there could well be, you know, it could collapse, and I think that, as you said, Lynn, it could happen very quickly. So my sense of it in terms of going forward is that I think it would be very, very useful to have a forum in which we can share certainly some of the local things that are going on, and see whether there is scope for collaboration and support, and just to know that there are other things going on in other places, and it might be possible to join in and support some of those other things. So I think that's where I'm at. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Prakash, and over to Carrie now.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I just wanted to ask Lynn some correspondence from me today. I sent you something yesterday, and it should arrive today. Oh.
I have got some posts today that came recorded. Was it you? I haven't opened it yet.
Oh, okay.
Well, I've opened it. There's a lot of grey sheets. There's something about
a letter.
Is that it? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm glad I know who it's from.
It might be, okay. It might be, and it's a document you requested as well.
Oh yes. Okay. Yeah. It's I
had to get permission from the person who created the document first, and he campaigning, and I've only just got all that through.
Cool. Thanks, Carrie. Thanks. I'll have a look at it. But yeah, it's been a mad morning, and but I've got the afternoon hopefully to digest.
Right. Well, I agree with what everybody is saying, and yes, I would like to continue with monthly meetings. I think it's really important to keep up networking and keep up morale, so we know what's going on. And there's a lot going on in Cornwall, and I think so far we haven't got 5G. They've tried, but we've protested in various places. There's also a big meeting coming up in Clovelly, which we're going to at the end of this month, and that is about the net zero nonsense, and we're inviting members of various councils to attend if they wish, and there are various speakers who are experts on the matter, climate change and all that stuff. And we as various groups that I belong to, which is Stand in the Park, another group which is a collection of people who are all awake when we meet once a fortnight, and the Community Assembly of the British Isles, and then also Team Dave. And Dave stood as an independent in West Cornwall, excuse my voice, and he came second to the Lib Dem, who won, which was quite good, really, considering all the others. And he started up a little movement called UKAN, UKAN. And because of his expertise, he has got a lot of support, and we decided that we're going to work, as all the independents have been working together, and even more now are coming in and working together along with the farmers movement about everything. So it's all kind of collating quite nicely, and I don't see why this can't happen, and I'm sure it is happening right throughout Britain, that we're all us individual people are communicating and, you know, supporting each other, and also giving out useful information. So that's where I'm at the moment. Thank you.
Thanks, Carrie. Cliff, you've got your hand up, but is there something urgent you want to say, or should we keep going round? Yeah.
No, keep going around. I can see Hugh's got his hand up, and there's Conrad,
Yeah.
and everything. That's cool. It's all good.
Okay. Okay, Hugh, would you like to speak next, and then no one else has got their hand up for now, so please put your hand up if you want to go after Hugh.
Thanks. I'm sorry about the video. It's not working. I don't know technical how to get that around. So just thinking on the politics side of things, I'm not really interested in, doing anything politics wise at the moment. I think the Labour Party will probably be a one-term government. I think they won't the messes are going to get worse. So I think for me, it's more about information sharing and how we, not just between us, but, in our local communities, can share the information. A lot of what everyone's touched upon, standing in the park, various other groups, we've got Council Watch. Council Watch has now got, I think, something in the order of 15 independent different council watches ongoing at the moment, and they're springing up everywhere. So, and I think we need, I started one just personally, just sort of keeping links to various information, but everyone knows so much more. And if we can, we need a central, whether we do it as a separate website or a video channel or something, where all this information, there are so many different things going on, and so much good information and so much information we can discuss. In the comments I see about, we talked about council tax, 5G and everything. I've just found out, 2 ways that people can stop paying their council tax. Does everyone know about, the Circa V legislation and the information that's been written about trusts that have been put in people's names? Is anyone familiar with that information? So you can actually now go and find the bank account set up in your name that has your trust pot allocated to it. There's a guy who goes through it in detail. There's a standard sort code that he gives you and you can find, and then you use your national insurance number to find your bank account. And I've done it. I've pumped it, taken the information he's given me, typed it in, and it recognizes my name as that government bank account, which is your personal trust that the government has set up for every single person associated with your national insurance number. Now, I didn't know that 2-3 weeks ago, but I've been hearing about it a lot. But Richard Vobes interviewed the guy that did it, and there's a very detailed explanation of it from Peter of England. I don't know if anyone knows Peter of England. So like I say, there's so much information, and I think we need to share that information, have a central depository where anyone can go and look at that information, whether it's a website or something, I don't know. And there's so much things, because the government is going to get stronger in terms of going after people for taxation, for stopping censorship and everything else, and yeah, and I mean, there are micronations. Do you know there are 2 now micronations set up in the UK, and information there? I didn't know about that until 3-4 months ago. I'm just investigating those, and and Richard Vobes has been talking about setting up an alternative parliament. I contacted him, and there are about 5 YouTube channels that have got, let's say, 250,000, 200,000 each, and it wouldn't take much to buy a land and a building and set up that alternative parliament government. I mean, you could do it with a contribution of less than your annual sort of breakdown cover, and that would just set it up and completely fund it. You would only need, I think, 750,000, and it just needs that information and a group. So I think there's just a lot of information, and I don't know whether we just talk about topics or whether we agree to try and work to develop that, or I don't know. But that's where I am at the moment. So much information, good information.
Thanks, Hugh. Cliff, sorry, you're breaking up.
Is it Sovereign Pete? Yeah, sorry.
No.
Is it Sovereign Pete?
Sovereign Pete doing what?
Peter of England, is that Sovereign Pete? He's asking.
Oh, I don't think that's the same. Is that no? That's not the same person. No.
Okay.
I don't think the same person.
Okay.
Thanks, Hugh. And it's funny because before the election, I was discussing this with Cliff, and we did actually come across this idea of doing a People's Parliament and actually creating a parallel system that discussed every issue and created alternative legislation, so to speak, or templates. So that's interesting that you've said the same thing. Let's come to GB Mills next. I don't know your first name.
It's Gary.
Oh, hi, Gary.
Hi, pleased to meet everyone. First time I've spoken here, so it's interesting to actually hear very similar comments from everybody, and it seems that there's a lot of sense being spoken, and I completely understand why there's a disparity between maybe wanting to take a political approach and then others understanding how difficult that would be. So I wonder whether there's a space for both of those to exist, whether there's within the repository that was just spoken about recently, whether there's information that could help individuals take a certain path towards a political approach, or whether there's something more community-centric or even sovereign-related. And I think maybe that's a direction that would prove effective to a number of people because of it being a repository rather than a movement in itself, that would have more than one prong to approach what's a very clear problem for us being governed in the way we are. And that's really all I wanted to say on that. But thank you for meeting today. It's very
Fab. Thanks, Gary. And Roger, good to see you. Glad that you managed to get on. Sorry that you got a confusion with the links.
Yeah, never mind. I'm here now. I was actually involved while I was late with this organisation, SDP,
Okay.
Social Democratic Party, and they're talking something like running an alternative parallel government. Have you heard of this? SDP, Social Democratic Party.
Is that used to be Lib SDP, or was that something completely different?
I don't know. All it is, I just received that this morning, which is a very elaborate presentation. Yeah.
Wasn't that the back in the 80s or something? There were the two Davids, weren't there? The David.
Yeah, the SDP.
David,
Well, yeah. Well, in this, you know, in the information I got today, they did say it was a relaunch. So
Okay.
it seems it did exist some time ago. And
David Steele was one of them, wasn't he?
Pardon?
I think David Steele and
David Steele was SDP and David Owen was Liberal, wasn't it? Was that way round? And David Owen was sort of titan of it.
Was David Steele the man who was there at your launching of your bid for MP in the town hall? Was that David Steele?
No, he was a famous politician from the 1980s.
Oh, I remember David. Yes, I remember. He was Liberal. He was party leader.
I think he was a defector. And like there was that woman that kind of with the bob hair. I forget her name.
Shirley Thingy, wasn't it?
Yes, Shirley. Cliff.
I remember.
Shirley Williams. That's right. Gosh, we're scraping the barrel of our political memories here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Back in the day when politicians were proper statesmen and women.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Sorry to interrupt, Rog, but go on. Tell us what that prospectus says, please.
Well, he calls it a manifesto, and it was a manifesto for the 2024 election, and it goes through a lot of things. You know, I mean, I can't tell you everything here. Some of it I agree with, some of it I don't. But it basically is, you know, what you were talking about when I managed to get in onto the meeting, and that was basically a parallel government. Well, not exact. Well, parallel to start with, but alternative later on. You know, and they seem to have some you know good policies, and that's why I got involved in reading this. But anyway, that's my little bit just for the moment. So maybe other people have got something more important to say.
Thanks, Rog. Okay, so would anyone else like to speak before we come back to Cliff, who's got his hand up again? Let's come back to you, Cliff, and then anyone else who wants to come on, please signal.
Harry had a hand up as well.
Oh, okay. We'll come to Carrie after Cliff.
Yeah, all of you put your hands up and have a rabbit. So it's I think that the really interesting conversation. I think today's a really interesting conversation about the direction going forward. And I think that there's a very clear line that's been drawn, which is either you decide that you're a sovereign human being on this planet and you have a right to do and live through your own integrity, morality, and actually live as a sovereign entity on this planet through love and through raising your vibration, or you wish to be on the side of you want to kind of still play within the matrix. It's I think there's, for me, that's actually a very clear split now, and I think that's what I've seen. It's personally, and I'm you know, everybody's completely entitled to their own opinions, but I think that what's been the whole part of this process with the voting and the independent and the people coming together and everything, it was really important that happened, because people can now really see just how corrupt and ridiculous the actual system currently is, where you've got the minutest amount of people have voted Labour. I think it's like 15% of the population who were voting, and yet they've been given fundamentally 100% of the power. And it's just, I mean, just looking at that, you go, well, they shifted the boundaries, they moved this, that, there, they moved that there, they you know, the whole thing was manipulated to get this result. I mean, even Sunak calling the election when he did, which was the most ridiculous. I mean, if you look at that as a common sense thing, it was the most ridiculous timing for him to call that part of it. It made no sense. He could have called it in January and spent time building up, chucked us a few quid here and there, and said, "Oh, I'm a really good guy," and you know, built a no. I'm going to go at the lowest point possible and push an election at the point where basically fundamentally we're in the worst case we could ever be. So none of it made sense unless you actually look at it as a pure button change. It was purely, we've done our bit, over to you guys, and we're actually going to give you the biggest chance of the biggest power, of the biggest majority, the biggest chance to actually just run straight across everything that's going forward. So once you start to look at that from my perspective, it's like, well, then there's nothing that can be done within that world at all. There's nothing we can do. So the question then comes, so what are we going to do? What are the sovereign people? And it's there. There's millions of us. It's just an echoing a lot of things that people are talking about, particularly, you know, what Hugh was saying and what other people were saying. It's now a case of gathering. It's now a case of not necessarily coming together under one banner, but the sharing of information, the understanding of what you can do, the realization of what's actually there, and really starting to bring that information together so people can feel empowered to start to create their own structure outside of what's going on from a sovereign love space.
Okay, I'm just conscious of time. We've got 6 minutes left. Carrie, you wanted to speak. We've got Hugh and Roger with their hands up, and we haven't heard from others like Conrad, and Daniel doesn't often come on. Francis is there as well. So
and Brian as well, I think.
Who?
Brian.
Oh, Brian. Sorry, yes, Brian. So can we just keep it short, these comments from people who've already spoken? Carrie, do you want to speak?
Yeah, okay, I'm aware of that. Thank you very much. I was going to say two things. Firstly, Cornwall or people in Cornwall are attempting to set up a stanary parliament, which you may know about. It's oh right, well, it's a parliament. Cornwall was once independent from England because they're not English, they're Cornish, and that avenue was never actually rescinded. Is that the right word? So therefore it still stands. So therefore it can be opened up again, and it is being opened up again. So that would be interesting. And secondly, Cornwall Council, who are believed to be one of the most corrupt councils in the country, are having their local election next May, and most of the independents that we liaise with are going to stand in as local councillors, or try and get in as local councillors to make as much of a difference as possible, to literally try and flood it with like-minded people. So I think this is a very good policy, that we're going in at local level, but we're also, there's so many groups now, I can't believe how many people have joined up in a couple of months. It's just amazing. So let's hope it happens everywhere, because I think that is the pattern that's being set at the moment. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Carrie. I'm going to come to Brian, if it's okay, Rog.
Okay, you can.
Yep. Hi there, everyone. So I'm up in the Ribble Valley, And in the general election, due to boundary changes, we actually did end up backing two candidates, one in Ribble Valley and the other in Pendle and Clitheroe. And I think the conclusion we've come to is very much doing something at the local level, because we put a lot of effort in. One of them did get quite a few votes, but actually the whole effort was just ridiculous. So where we've come to, and I do think there's benefit in having this meeting at least on a monthly basis, just to find out what's happening, see what others of like-minded individuals are doing in their areas. And where we've got to, I think, is we're going to effectively just look to bring pressure and highlight things that are going on at the local council level. I mean, just as a ridiculous thing, our local Ribble Valley invested money in deciding to plant redwoods. Don't know how that got through the council. That's our own fault. We weren't at those council meetings. So what we're planning to do is be absolutely aware of what's going on locally, so that we can start to interrupt what they're doing and make them think.
Cool. Fantastic. Conrad, did you want to come on?
Well, thank you. But I was going to say that one of the best pieces of news for this year for me was the fact Rachel decided to drop politics. Now, that's not to say that I don't admire her for what she has done. I think she did an incredible job. But what it did start to put into my mind was the fact of how much of all this stuff is actually, oh gosh, I've lost the word, getting in the way of, oh, bother.
Obstructing.
Sorry?
Obstructing.
Distraction?
Yeah, it's
obstructing.
Distraction. There is so much distraction. Yes, we need to know what's going on. That's very important. But I feel that a lot of the distraction is also taking us away from the word that both, I think, Mark and Prakesh spoke about, was for sovereignty. And to arrive at sovereignty, there's a lot of inner work to do. This is one of my particular themes, is the inner work to come to our sovereignty, so that we are clear in ourselves. And by being clear, you can also come from the love and compassion that all of us have within us to deal with the situations that crop up. That's about it. Thank you.
Thanks, Conrad. And Daniel, did you want to say anything? Because you've been quite active on the chat, and then I know you'd like to be in a bit in the shadows, but oh, there you go. Hi, Daniel.
Hello. No, I don't really want to say anything. Okay,
right. Well, thanks for coming on and letting us know that. But so it's 1 o'clock. It feels to me that the general consensus is we should continue with a monthly meeting, which I would propose is the same third Thursday at 12 noon. So is everyone happy with that? Show of hands. Let's do a little vote on it. Is everyone happy with that? So pretty much that's a consensus. Daniel hasn't quite signaled, but yeah, so I think that feels like we've come to an agreement. So I mean, personally, if it's just one meeting a month on a Thursday, I'm happy to continue to host on the same link. And let's just do that, and let's co-create and collaborate and join forces with everyone else who feels the same. It feels that that's what we're saying, right? Now, just on a practical note, I know that Cliff, you were looking at a whole kind of data, a website database full of this information already. So that might be something to investigate. But I feel it's kind of beyond the realms of this meeting. I don't know if you just wanted to speak to that quickly, how far you got with that.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think that there's lots of people doing wonderful work across the country at this moment, like brilliant people. And I think one of the main areas that we need to really investigate is lawful, in effect, lawful revolution, I'd say, but lawful, loving we're just not playing your game revolution. And I think there's a huge amount of people that all have parts of the jigsaw puzzle, but we haven't got the jigsaw puzzle together yet. So I know a lot of people who are looking at trusts, and Chris Coverdale's and your Hornsey Woods and your people like this, and they all seem to have parts of the structure right now. So I think the first thing I'm looking at doing initially, although I'm producing another bit of work with somebody else who's talking about not leaving a footprint on online when you go online. So basically, so I'm helping produce that. Is to bring those people together to have a conversation, because I think that they're between them, they all have parts of the puzzle, and if we can bring them together without any ego or mine's right, yours is wrong, this is the right way, any of that kind of, and that you just have an open, free conversation where they can come together and really discuss.
Yeah.
Then I think that could be incredibly effective for creating a kind of, in effect, a structure that people can start to say, okay, so if I do these things, then I actually remove myself from out of the system and say, but completely legally, it's without any kind of anger, without any kind of whatever, but just, I'm not part of this anymore. And they have to understand what they're doing when they do that. If they are going to separate themselves from the system, then what they're actually doing when they do that, as well as at the same time. So that's what I'm currently working on at this moment. And then I'm doing a kind of pamphlet, like I say, with a guy who I've nicknamed the Abominable Snowman. So it's how to not leave a footprint by the Abominable Snowman. He's basically. And then we're going to do one with anti-surveillance. So if you actually want to go the next step and do a fully a kind of fully cleansed, so you can literally do everything online without any kind of tracking. So one of the things he said to me that I'd suggest everybody looks at is Signal as the app. They actually left Telegram because Telegram was set up to be a non kind of structured platform for people to talk on. And then they changed their view, and the guys who've been part of the original set up Signal. So Signal is what Snowden uses and all these other people use, because everything's kept on your phone. It's not in the cloud. It's completely separate. So there's no kind of track and trace of what's going on. So Signal is the place to actually share information, have Zoom calls, have conversations, all these kind of things, just so that actually they're between the people who are having the conversations. They're not other people can't actually look at them and go, oh, who said that? Yeah. I think that's
cool. Okay, Cliff, are you complete?
I'm trying to become complete.
Okay, so Rog, do you want to have the last word before we?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that after reading the SDP manifesto, I thought there were some very good points in there, but it's still the same structure. In my opinion, we've got to remove ourselves from the same kind of political structure. And I know it's easily said, but love is the answer, and that's what we are. And somehow we've got to find a way of displaying our love. I mean, I don't know, it's a question. I'm not really presenting any solutions here, just to say that we've got to just move completely away from this this structure, whether it's an independent or party political, it doesn't matter. We just got to get away from it, because it doesn't work. And I'm not talking about, because of, massive problems with proportional representation. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the basic system itself. We got to be very innovative and come up with something that truly displays and puts into action what we stand for, and that is love. I know it's easily said, but we have to think about that.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Rog, and thanks to everyone who's come on the call. And so we'll I'll communicate this via the love email to everyone and reiterate what we've agreed. And yeah, so thank you so much for coming on. It's been a great debate, and it feels like we've got clarity, so that's good. Okay, bye for now.
Thanks, bye all.
Bye bye.